The real key to understanding the sentence completions is to enforce anticipation. A lot of students struggle with the sentence completions because of the difficult vocabulary, but we have a lot of opportunity to get right answers by focusing on what we're actually given in the sentence rather than worrying about the answer choices themselves yet. Let's take a look at the anticipation drill in the Book of Knowledge. The Pekingese is a blank breed of dog in that it is fiercely loyal to and protective of its home. If we're looking for a good anticipation here, it's tempting to think something like it's a good breed of dog, but you can't assume that in the sentence. Truth is, maybe the kind of dog I want is a cowardly dog, the kind of dog that just runs away instantly when somebody comes through the front door. You can't make normative judgments here. You can't decide good or bad. The only thing that we know about the Pekingese right here is that it's loyal and protective of its home. That's our anticipation, loyal and protective of home. We don't need the perfect word in the blank. Remember, what we're trying to do here is capture the essence of what that word in the blank is supposed to mean. If we get stuck on something like Pekingese because it looks like a weird word that perhaps we're not familiar with, ignore it. Say something else. The Joe is a blank breed of dog. All we've got here in the second half of the sentence is something akin to a definition of that word in the blank being loyal and protective of its home. Number 2. Lindsay disliked her English class more than any other class, but it was blank, so she was required to attend. It's tempting to look at a sentence like this and say her English class was terrible. It was boring. It was about stuff she hated. It included Shakespeare. She couldn't understand it. There are a million different reasons Lindsay could have disliked her English class, but the only one that we get in the sentence here is that she was required to attend. Don't be fooled. Just because we know Lindsay dislikes it doesn't mean we actually know why unless it says it explicitly in the sentence. The only thing we find out here is she's required to attend. So what we're looking for is something like required. Number 3, many animals have heightened blank senses. In fact, some even rely on their noses more than their eyes when trying to perceive their environment. As we take a look at this sentence, it's often the case that students say something like heightened senses. Well, while I do appreciate the fact that it isn't always easy to come up with the perfect word, the second half of the sentence does give us a clear idea of what was heightened, relying on noses more than eyes. So what was heightened here? Noses. We're looking for a heightened smelling sense or heightened noses senses. It doesn't really matter if we get the perfect word. We just know that word in the blank has got to mean something relating to sense of smell. Number 4, Lisa spent the last 4 years developing medical machines that are so small they are virtually blank, unable to be seen with the naked eye. By now, we should really have developed a pretty keen ability to recognize that part of the sentence is going to define our word in the blank. That comma is actually very helpful because what comes right after the comma is the definition of what's coming right before the comma. So what do we know? They're so small that they're virtually unable to be seen with the naked eye. A good anticipation would be something like unable to be seen with the naked eye. Now, students might know the exact word to put in the blank, but it's not required. What we're really keying in here is that we don't want students to think beyond the sentence. We want students to prove what the answer is based on the evidence that they can find. If you can't put your finger on the part of the sentence that defines the word in the blank, it's just not good enough. Number 5. George Washington was a great military commander with the ability to blank his soldiers, giving them great motivation and courage. When you take a look at a sentence like this, there's a lot of things that we know about George Washington. But what we're not looking to do is to go into the history books. We're only looking to dive into part of the sentence. What do we know about George Washington right here? Apparently, he is great at motivating and giving them courage. Now, our anticipation could be motivate, it could be inspires courage, it could be inspires motivation or courage through motivation. There are a lot of different ways that we can take this, but it's focused on the second half of the sentence that says motivation and courage. So what does he have the ability to do? Motivate his soldiers. Number 6, while some students appreciated the historical qualities of the old school, others found the facilities too blank to be useful. Now, oftentimes when we take a look at a sentence like this, we start to think about all of the bad things that this school could have. There are so many different ideas that might run through our head, but the sentence itself only tells us that it's old. So it can't be anything other than historical or old for our anticipation to be right, matching up with the text given to us in the sentence. Something with historical qualities, something old, something out of date. That's what we're putting in our blank with our anticipation. Number 7, Brett has a blank role in the company. He has an impressive sounding title, but no real power. Now, if we're trying to come up with a single word to capture the entire second half of the sentence, we might struggle a little bit. So why don't we just focus in on the 2 things that could be in the blank? Sounds nice, but no real power. If we can't synthesize that into a single word, we still know that it could be either or both of those that fit in the blank. It sounds great, but no power. So our anticipation could be something literally impressive sounding, but no real power. Number 8. The salesman promised us that the software would revolutionize our office and increase efficiency, but it has hardly been the blank we had anticipated. When we take a look at this sentence, the word but tells us that the opposite of what was going on in the first half of the sentence might be happening in the second half. It's a contrast. It's indicating a contrast between the 2 parts of the sentence. Well, what do we find out in the first part? The salesman promised us this would be awesome. But, well, it's hardly been. What we're looking for in the second half of the sentence is that it's not been good. One thing that students will do here is put the word in the blank to mean something like really bad thing. Why? Because but tipped them off that the first part of the sentence was good, but the second part of the sentence was bad. However, if you look more closely, it's hardly been the something we had anticipated. The questions and the sentence completions are ordered in terms of difficulty. So sentences that come towards the end can be more difficult to comprehend, but it has hardly been the. What we have is some reversal here. It's the thing we had anticipated. Well, that was supposed to be a really great thing. So it's hardly been the really great thing we had anticipated, the revolutionary, awesome increase in efficiency thing. That's what we're looking for in the second half of the sentence. Revolutionary, really, really good. Number 9. Although a skilled technician, Anna was confused by the blank used by the staff at her new job. She could perform the procedures, but she did not understand her coworkers' specialized language. Well, Anna could be confused by a number of different things, but the only thing that we have in the second half of the sentence that she's really clearly confused by in the text we can put our fingers on is specialized language. Now, some students might know a word that highlights or rather encapsulates specialized language, but all we really need to do is circle specialized language and have our anticipation be the text that's right there on the page. Number 10. Robertson was surprised and relieved that his new play was well received by the same critics who had blanked his last work. Well, what do we know about Robertson? He's surprised and relieved. He's feeling good. His new play is well received. Well, if he's surprised that it was well received, what must he have been assuming he was going to hear? He was surprised that it was good. That means, wow, it must have been he was expecting that it was bad. So these same critics must have hated his last work. What we can anticipate is criticize or criticize severely.